Step one is defining your scope. And Elisavet gave most of the details, but things have changed. So reviewing if you still have the same responsibilities is step one. It's the most important part today. And mainly understanding if you fall into any of the new categories. So are you considered now a downstream operator, or previously trader, or are you perhaps a micro and small primary operator? Now, note that micro and small primary operator, the word primary is very important because this is a very small niche. It's actually companies that produce goods within the European Union. That means if you harvest wood, for instance, in the forest, you would be considered the primary operator. If you're an SME importing goods, you still have the traditional obligations. Secondly, downstream operators need now to collect and pass on due diligence statements. They need to record the suppliers that those come from, but they also need to record the people that buy those products. And you need to record that information for the 5 years to come because you can be audited on all the historical data during the past 5 years. If you're not an SME, you need to register in the system as well. So that is a registration in EU Traces. It does not mean you need to post due diligence statements to EU Traces because that's a reason that we're trying to reduce burden on the IT system. Step two is mapping your supply chain. And roughly we've put kind of different roles in the supply chain in 3 categories. So importers, producers, top right, and then traders and wholesalers. Importers are the ones that are still considered operators. Exactly the same requirements. They need to build full supply chain traceability, and they need to conduct all the due diligence steps. Producers, so for instance, loggers, they are considered primary operators. And then the question is, are they micro or small, or are they not? If they're micro or small, that will mean they need to do simplified disclosures. It doesn't mean they need to do nothing at all. If they're bigger than 50 employees or fall above those thresholds, they're considered operators. And then you should consider the full scope of EUDR requirements again. Now, for traders and wholesalers, those are considered downstream operators, and that's where most of the simplification has happened. You will need to request due diligence statements, record your suppliers, record your buyers, and if you're not an SME, register in the system, as we said. Step 3 is requesting that information. The operator due diligence process is a lot longer than those few bullets that we've put down, but a few highlights are the geolocations, details on your supply chain, so the steps, potential mixing, proof of legality with national laws. That's a topic that we very often see missing in people's assessment. It's not enough if you do a country benchmark. You actually need to understand if the documentation that your supplier provides you is in line with what the national law requires. And that means for 130 countries, for which your scope will probably be between, let's say, 2 and 10 countries, you will have different assessments that you'll need to run. Interaction with indigenous peoples, and so on and so forth. For primary operators, if you need to do the one-time simplified declaration, look at EUDR Annex 3. You will receive then a declaration identifier, and then you need to attach that identifier to your sales orders. This is different than a due diligence statement reference number. If you're not micro or small, then again, you look at operators and you do the full responsibility. For downstream operators, you collect the due diligence statement and you make that available to your buyers. And then finally, you need to record your suppliers and you need to record your buyers. Again, this as well, it may sound simplified, but what this means is that for every single order that you purchase and for every single order that goes out, you need to collect due diligence statements. You need to log them somewhere and make them audit ready. And you need to send them again alongside your goods to the people that purchase your products. This isn't simply a matter of collecting and passing through directly and saying, okay, we'll be fine because the number is going to be the same. As soon as the origin back in the supply chain, back in the plot changes, as soon as it's a new harvest, as soon as somebody in your supply chain works with a new supplier, that number will be different. So traceability is what it comes down to here. Step 4 is, where necessary, and it will be necessary in some cases, identifying those risks and mitigating those risks. So for operators, it's running risk assessments across supply chain risk, country risk, deforestation degradation risk, legality, social impact and human rights, and business practices. Together, these can be more than 100 data points that you're assessing. And we now got 6 months until we're getting fined for not being compliant. That means that in 6 months, there's no leeway to do things wrong. There's no room for excuse anymore. Whenever people have run risk assessments, we always recommend go back to Article 9 and 10 and validate the work you've done. Make sure you haven't missed a single detail in there, because the details are the ones that matter. Step 5, validating completeness and future-proofing your workflow. So this is, again, going back to Article 9 and 10, but also ensuring that your EUDR process doesn't end on December 30. So is it robust? So can it actually be scaled up, scaled down? Is it repeatable? So can I send this to all my suppliers every single year, every single month, for them not to feel burdened by the work you're doing? Is it auditable? So when the competent authorities come knocking at the door and they request information within a 30-day time frame, can you present all that information? Are you confident that's going to pass the audit? Because remember, the risks are still the same. It's still 4% of revenue. It's still trading halts. Is the supplier experience repeatable? So are you requesting information from your suppliers in a way that they feel confident they can keep providing you with this information for the coming years? And remember, for a lot of Southeast Asian providers, it really depends on your company size, obviously. But for many of those, European revenue is quite a small part of what they're doing in total. We need to make their experience good if they want to keep working with us as well. That means creating a supplier experience that's as foolproof and as easy to use as we experience that on our side. Is it scalable? So if you grow as a company, will you be able to grow with the system you've set up in order to serve your customers well? And is it not dependent on a single person? That's also what we often saw with other compliance frameworks. You hire someone to pick up, let's say, CSRD compliance. That person ends up leaving the organization, and you're left with a broken Excel sheet and a broken process. Do you have the redundancy internally that you are not dependent on one person, not on two people, but you've built the systems internally that make the people element not a risk for you? If all checks out, you're ready to go. If there's still an X on the list, there's work to do.